Brianna.
So it is working?
Yeah, we might have cuddles in some of the.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna ignore her now, so hopefully she won't bark.
All right. Questions.
Okay.
All right. I've got to think through my little intro
Okay.
real quick.
No, go lay down now.
Like, what is happening? Play with me. It's okay. We can have cuddles in a little bit of the podcast too.
Okay, she's part of the family.
All right.
But she won't get it. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. What's up, guys? This is Zach, and you have just stepped into the dark blue. I have some very special guests today, because without these two, there would be no podcast, because there would be no me. So these are my parents, Richard and Anna Jewell, and I'm pretty excited for this conversation because it's very near and dear to me. And so yeah, it's actually kind of cool because I got this opportunity through my master's program for going through the Wayland Baptist University to get my license in counseling. And so I get to sit down with you guys for one of my classes and talk about some lifespan development stuff. So thought it'd be a fun way to kill two birds with one stone and have a podcast with you guys for the first time in 4 years since we've been doing the podcast. So
that's fun.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I got us some beverages because we had to do things in true dark blue fashion, and but they are all non-alcoholic beers, so school friendly. And yeah, so you guys can pick one out. We've got a Pilsner here from Brooklyn, which is a very light beer. These are all really light ones because I know neither of you really like darker beers, so I kind of forced them to get into the whole craft beer thing because I enjoy it so much, and that's the dog Cuddles. So anyway, so we have the Hoppy Golden from Brewdog, and then we have the SoBeer Grapefruit Light American, which I really like myself, but there's several more in the fridge, so if you want to have that one, that's totally fine. I think either of you would like that. So yeah, so go ahead and grab one and
okay,
let's give them a taste.
you know where I'm going.
Straight for the grapefruit.
And I'll let you have the hoppy one.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, the Hoppy Golden.
Hoppy is for you.
Spraying everywhere.
It smells really good.
I love that sound, like the cracking of the can and then like
the pouring.
It's just
the fizzling.
Yeah.
Kind of like the snap crackle pop that Rice Krispies in the morning.
So this is of course we got to shout out our friends at Sheath Underwear here, and cheers. Thanks for doing this with me.
Yes, thanks for having us. That is very light.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like these because they're not as intense as like a regular craft beer might be sometimes, and they're super refreshing, and you don't feel gross after you drink one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I can definitely taste the grapefruit in here.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, that's why I like that one, especially during the summertime. It's been really nice because it's like kind of drinking almost like a mimosa kind of flavor, but just not as, in your face with the with the grapefruit.
All we need now is the big soft pretzels and cheese dip.
Oh yeah. Oktoberfest is on the rise, so
true.
we should probably go do that at some point and get some soft pretzels and
we should
some nice German beer. So
definitely.
But anyway, so yeah, we're just gonna have a conversation about life and where you guys come from and where you're at now and how it all happened. So sound good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sure.
All right. Well, yeah, if you guys want to start off and just kind of tell everybody a little bit about where you came from, just a few minutes just about your childhood and like teenage years.
You want to start?
Sure. I don't know. I kind of describe where I came from. It's like just a typical small town America, parades, basketball, baseball, riding bikes in the summertime. Started working when I was 13, working on farms. I won't get into detail about working on the farms, but
even though I'm sure you could.
yeah, I've done several times, I'm sure. But yeah, it was just typical small town America. I graduated, went to high school nearby. It was 7 townships and 1 high school. And right after high school, I joined the military. So,
All right.
So,
Well, I come from a small town, also not as small as his. I came from Clovis, New Mexico, Air Force brat, as they say, and my childhood was a little different than his. I had a mother who had severe rheumatoid arthritis, so there were a lot of issues with that, and a father who is an alcoholic, so there was a lot of issues with that. And so my childhood was kind of, we didn't do much, we didn't see much, just kind of stuck around Clovis. I never even knew much about New Mexico and went through my school years there. Graduated from Clovis High School. Not too exciting, I guess. Did like to roller skate, and that's where I met Richard. That was my outlet, I guess, roller skating Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday every week. Gave me something to do. So it turned out to be a very good pastime. So
Yeah. I'm gonna pull this a little bit closer,
okay.
so hopefully it'll pick it
Yeah,
up a
I
little
know
better.
I don't talk very loud. I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's I mean, it's really interesting, both of you guys coming from like very different backgrounds, very different even parts of the country. And so I love that idea of like kind of meeting those two things together, and you guys being able to make a life work with such different experiences.
Yes.
So what would you guys say are some of your defining moments from your childhood that you think impacted your life?
Wow, that's a deep question there. Well, oh, go ahead. I think for me, mostly just because of my parents, the situation there, dad being an alcoholic, mom always sick. I think it impacted me in a way that I have a lot of insecurity in my life because of that. A lot of fears and worries. So I think it really did impact me. I can't really think of much else, just
It's kind of that broad experience.
That broad experience, always having a fear of something going bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how my childhood impacted me.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think I mean, I can't pick out any one thing. I think it was just growing up in small town America. When it came time to graduate high school, being actually two buddies, and we all joined the Air Force at the same time. It was just not a lot of opportunity where we came from. It was either, working on the farm, in most cases. I mean, and a lot of people have stayed there and done well and lived in, that area. But I don't know, something just led me to do something different. And so it was just time to move on and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I recall recently you've told me some more specific moments that stood out to you, if you're willing to share them, about it, like in your experience in school, and then with your dad and the bicycle. I feel like those are pretty big, like
yeah. So I was not, I was not a good student. I won't. So I can remember a long time ago, the first experience, my first grade. I can remember the first time, and I won't get into details, but I can remember actually the teacher calling me stupid. And so that impacted me. So that's why, and we'll probably get into this later, but later on in life, I ended up with a master's degree and so on and so forth. And I hope that's impacted
From
Zach.
Wayland.
Yes. From Wayland. So, and the other thing was my brother and sister laugh at me all the time because I don't remember a lot of things from my childhood as far as specific things like they do, but I remember different things than they do. And I can remember my brother working one summer, he's 14 or so, maybe 13. That's when we started working on farms and, getting some little cash on the side. And he was able to buy a brand new Swin bicycle, with the banana seat. That's when the banana bars and banana seat and all that stuff came out. And it was a pretty blue and all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, he brought that home, and I was like devastated that I didn't get a brand new bicycle. And I don't recall my dad having a heart-to-heart talk with me too many times, but that was one time that he did. And he, just came out where I was riding an old beat-up bicycle. And he kind of talked to me for a little while and told me, he explained Ronnie my brother was, he earned that money and he bought that with that money he earned. Our parents didn't help him with it. And so he had a long talk with me, and I feel, well, as best I could, sucked it up, but then the very next day, and I can remember my dad coming home with a red banana seat and high handlebars, and he went out and put it on that old beat up bicycle.
I never heard that story.
Yeah, so
that's
it's
neat.
it's a pretty cool thing to think about my dad, especially since, like I said, he didn't, he was a typical 70s daddy.
The Wonder Years, the Wonder Years style dad.
He came home, read the newspaper, ate dinner, fell asleep, so on and so forth. But he did work hard and spent a lot of hours to provide for us, as my mom, as our mom did too. So
yeah, nice. So you guys went pretty much straight from like adolescence into adulthood with each other. Like you met like right on the cusp of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious, coming from those different backgrounds, what did that transition look like for you guys, going from that to being with each other at such a young age?
It was pretty great. I was very young. I was still in high school, and 2 weeks before I turned 17, we got married. And it was just like, it just felt natural, like meant to be. And I never had any doubts. I never had any, coming from being the person that I've always been with all these fears and doubts, and I didn't have any about us, I never thought, oh my gosh, this might not work out, or I never thought that. I just thought, here we are, and we're gonna be this way forever, and never looked back. It was just such a natural for us from the moment we met. I feel like, in fact, when I saw him the first time, my first thought was, I'm gonna marry him, and I don't know why. I never thought that about anybody before, but so
intuition, though.
That women's intuition is pretty strong.
Even at that age, right?
So,
but yeah, I mean, it's nice too, because we're both pretty mellow, I guess you might say. We're not really high strung people or anything, and it was, I say this all the time and people laugh, but we were so close that, I mean, we slept on the same pillow for probably 2 years, the first 2 years.
That's how poor we were.
And it didn't seem to bother either of us. It was just
once we got over the head thumping every night.
So but it's it's always been a friendship.
Yes.
We try to, we still try to court each other. All of our decisions are in a partnership, and still to this day, we still do that. And
Sorry for the dog.
so
Can't really control it. It's okay.
When you want to play, you want to play.
so anyway, it's just always been easy. There was really no proposal. One day I gave her a necklace and said one day I'll exchange it for a ring.
That sounds like a country song.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, but it's been a great experience, and it's 45 years strong. So
Nice. Hold on. Wait for her to calm down a little bit.
Sorry. She's got her.
Jealous.
Yep, she is. She's left out.
So would you guys say, even though it was maybe an easy transition, did you guys have, what would you guys say was the most difficult part of starting that life together?
Let me think.
What were some of the challenges?
Well, maybe some of the challenges may have been, for me, trying to figure out how to be the wife but let go of being the child, because I still felt, because I was young, so I always thought, well, I got to check with my mom, or I got to let my mom know, or it took me a long time to get past that thinking that, like, we would go somewhere and I'd be like, I didn't tell my mom, so am I going to get in trouble? Or and so I had that was hard, and just it wasn't hard for us, the transition.
no.
For me, it was like being freed. I know that sounds bad. I loved my mother with all my heart, but it was not always an easy relationship with her. And as much as I loved her, she was a hard person to live with. And she had a lot of expectations. So, I always used to wonder why he stuck around, because he would come to pick me up for a date and it'd be like, you're not going anywhere, you're babysitting tonight, because I had a little sister that was 2 years old. And or you're not going anywhere till the house is clean. And then both of those, it would be like the first I'd heard all day about it, and she would know all day we had plans.
Then all of a sudden
when he would show up, it would be so. Yeah, it was kind of
like getting away from that control. And
that unknown, that stress. It was always stressful for me, always.
Gotcha.
For me.
Yeah.
So, but he stuck around and he helped me clean house and babysit. And so
just wanted to hang out with you.
Yeah.
I guess so. I thought glutton for punishment or something.
So sharing one pillow, only having enough money to share one pillow was okay compared to the having that space and that ability to be yourself. And
yes, and I mean, I came from that anyway.
Okay.
Because we didn't have money. My parents divorced when I was 14, and my mom, of course, couldn't work because of her arthritis. It was, pretty debilitating, and sometimes I think I felt like I was not like I took care of everybody. Like I had to make sure everybody was okay, or that everything was
like you had to be the
good.
parent.
Yeah, kind of.
Almost.
Kind of. So yeah, I think it was kind of a freeing experience. Unfortunately, I hate to feel that way, but I think that is
I think it's good to be able to recognize that, though, and like say it out loud, because it's like otherwise it's just all that stuff just kind of hangs there and like keeps that stress that you're talking about just present all the time. So that's it's good.
My mother was good at putting a guilt trip on you, like right
Mhm.
now I said that, so now I've got a guilt trip. So
Gotcha.
some
Yeah.
things just don't go away.
Right. It's kind of a learned behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. So what about for you?
Well,
Because that sounds like kind of a different thing for you to come into
yeah, and
after.
Yes.
yeah, and and Anna was, very understanding about a lot of things because I was, like I said, like we said, I was young, just in late teens into my early 20s, and so it was, but I was, like I said, I'm pretty easygoing. So I was able to kind of just work with it. But if I think back, if I say if I personally had, anything to worry about, just as a young, you know, young man, I just didn't know really, as far as income and work and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I knew I had a steady paycheck from the Air Force, but trust me, it wasn't much of a paycheck. And my first paycheck after we got married was only $290, and that was
For 2 weeks.
So, but it was the mid 70s or mid to late 70s. So, but yeah, that would probably be the thing that I would have to say if I sat down and thought about it and said, this would have been an issue for me. That's probably what it would be.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Well, I mean, you guys also had Letitia, my sister, 6 years older than me, pretty early too. What was it like balancing that career with the Air Force and finances and all that with having her?
I think finances, sometimes it was hard. I remember one time, and I think Letitia was a baby already, but we couldn't even afford to go to a movie. Movies were really cheap back then. And we just didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Did you work a lot of different jobs like through your 20s while she was growing up?
I worked while I was pregnant. I worked a little bit at a drugstore. And then later I worked like at Walgreens and just different little things like part-time jobs just to help out a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And
then she usually with dad when you were working, or
most of the time, sometimes with my mother. Like I would work at Walgreens till 9 or 10 at night, and he was working what they called swing shift then, which was like 3 to 11 or whatever. So then we would go pick him up after I would get off, go to my mom's, get her, and we'd drive out to the base. We only had one car, so we had to drop him off and come back, do all that. But yeah, that was always actually at that time I kind of thought it was fun,
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a bonding experience almost, like doing that whole just normal life routine.
Yeah, and it's I mean, to us that's what it was. It was just normal. At least to me it was. I mean, we just we knew we had schedules to deal with, and we did that.
We just did it. And it just seemed like we just did it. We just
fell into place.
Parenthood just fell into place. And
there wasn't any difficulty to it. It was just just do what you had to do.
Just do it. I think the first time he had to go TDY, he went to Korea and Australia, and that was difficult because he was gone for a month and a half, and that was the first time we had ever been apart, and the baby was not even a year old yet, so that was difficult for me because I'm just like, what do I do? And what if he doesn't come back? Or, all these things that go through your mind.
Right.
So that was kind of stressful for me. And you too.
Yeah.
I remember.
But at the same time too, through those years of the Air Force, and I've talked about this before with people and stuff, but in those situations, you've always done really, really well.
Oh, thank you.
I've always been proud of you for that.
Well, thank
because
you.
being in the military, guys, it just depends on some people travel, some people don't, and but you just work it out. And I feel like, you were able to really do a good job with that.
Thank you.
Make a lot of decisions when I was gone that
And that's when things
most
always
people
go
your age
wrong.
wouldn't have had to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you guys moved from New Mexico
mhm,
to Iceland
yes,
for a couple of years, and then to Utah,
yes.
where I was born.
Mhm.
And we were there till I was what, 8, 9 years
8.
old, right?
Mhm.
And then we moved to San Antonio, Texas. And so that's not a lot of moving, but it is like cultural differences and
Oh,
things like that are
definitely.
really intense. And what would you guys say you learned in that time in Iceland that you kind of brought back with you? And
I think it was a good time for us because it was the first time we were really by ourselves
mhm,
and we had to depend on each other. There wasn't like mom around, or we couldn't call his parents if we had a question. We had to figure everything out on our own,
yeah,
and it was probably a good time of growth for us.
Very good
And
time. Yeah.
everything was new and exciting and
I mean-
scary, and I mean, just the
Yeah.
thought of
Well,
being
and
20 years old and
Yeah.
picking up and going to another country that I
Yeah.
had never really heard of until he got orders.
Yeah,
And
but even then they had to shift. We had to go find it on the map, and the guy told me where I was going. I was like, where are we going?
Yeah, well, it was completely different then too, because travel wasn't near as accessible as it is now.
Right.
You know, like
and phone calls. I mean, we got a phone call once a month.
I think so.
Was it? Yeah,
I believe it
we
was.
got like a 30-minute phone call once a month. So every month we had to take turns call my mom this month and his parents the next month.
yeah.
And it was like in the middle of the night, half the time,
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning or something. So,
Oh yeah.
we did not have access to family like
Yeah.
now.
So you got to develop
So
some true self-sufficiency and
yes.
like really connecting over like this is how this all works and how we
Yep.
are going to work together.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool
Yes.
to have
Yeah.
to kind of be forced into that sometimes.
But also
Yeah.
too, Iceland, gave us one really true friendship that even still lasts
To
till
this day.
To this day.
Yep.
Is that Bill and Don?
Yes.
Bill and Don.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you kind of depend on each other in those kind of situations you meet.
Mhm.
The base there is so small. I think it's its own community, and
Yeah.
people just kind of bonded. But we really, for some reason, we just
Yeah.
really bonded and still love to be together. And,
Cool.
yeah, even though we live way far apart.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you guys still travel to
We
see them, and
still-
they came here recently and everything. So
Yeah.
developing those friendships during that time that's really cool. And
It is.
I have some, a few friendships that I've developed over the years that I think are going to be very similar to that,
I hope so.
and it's it's in those times when I was up in Seattle and experiencing that first experience by myself without anybody
Right.
nearby that I knew, and like really forming friendships with people who are in similar situations,
Right.
so yeah,
That makes it just gives you something to bond over, I guess.
Yeah.
A reason to bond.
Definitely.
So,
So yeah, but so then you guys came to Utah,
mhm.
back to the US, and I was born there, right?
Yep.
So I am kind of curious what you guys noticed as parents, the differences between me and Letitia that you noticed like when we were younger, that maybe stuck around till now, or things that you like maybe you handled things differently because her personality was different than mine, or things like that.
You definitely have different personalities.
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah, to say the least.
but saying that, you were both like the sweetest little kids ever in the world. So anyway, but yeah, she has a little more stubbornness about her than you
Yeah.
do. You're more, you're both just great kid. I mean, you were both pretty easy kids. We never had any issues, but she was a real quiet baby, real hardly ever cried.
Oh yeah.
Where
Sure.
you cried a lot, a lot more. Like, so sometimes that was stressful for me,
Yeah.
like when we would go somewhere and you would be crying and I wouldn't really know why or what to do with you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was like something about the place we were at or something maybe made you uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I remember times thinking, I don't know what to do, but I didn't have that experience with her so
Yeah.
much.
That would be
So,
hard to get used to, like, especially if your first child is not, really easy in that way, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
your second child is not at all, and it's just I think that would be really hard to get used to, and kind of frustrating. Like, I would probably feel like, what am I doing wrong with this one
right.
that I wasn't doing with that
You
one?
do feel like that sometimes, but maybe we had you in the order we did because of that,
Right.
because that's what made everything. I mean, getting into parenthood, she was just so
Yeah, got you used to it.
easygoing.
Yeah.
She didn't.
Yeah.
The only time it was really stressful with her was like if she was sick,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
she would cry a lot, and then we didn't know what to do, but
Yeah.
who does at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was about to say too, because I really think, we were young. Yeah. And so maybe it was just, as we say around here, a God thing, because there's a reason why she was born first. Because, if we'd have had you at 20, because of the amount that you cried, not that we,
We would have been
anything
like, "Oh."
else, but it's just like, it would have been really hard. So,
Not as
Yeah.
hard as, I mean, don't get me wrong, you didn't cry as much as a lot of kids
Yeah.
cried.
Yeah,
but
it was
more
just
than
different though. It was a
he
different
did.
experience.
different experience for us.
And you
Yeah.
were just a different kid. You had
Yeah.
your little ideas of how
Yeah,
you were going to do things.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's actually a good thing that you brought up. Kind of where I was going next is I'm kind of curious. Did your perspectives on parenting shift between me and Letitia? I mean, it was kind of a different time. You had different income levels. You had different experiences. Would you say that your values or perspectives on parenting changed between her being a teenager and me being a teenager?
The teenage years, maybe a little bit, but I was thinking more of when you were little, because I had made friends and been around different people who had children also. So I feel like I was watching people and learning from them. I would watch how they did things, and then sometimes I would be like, oh, I never thought of that. And
Yeah.
and I would try different things I saw other people do. And teenage years are just like a different animal together. But
Yeah, it doesn't have to be specifically teenage years, but I
Yeah,
was just kind of
Yeah.
thinking
I think
the different times.
Yeah.
It was very
well,
different.
and you both had different experiences in elementary school.
Yeah.
Where she had some difficulties with like reading and math,
Yeah,
and she was just a sweet little girl, but her one teacher told her, she was going to have to stay in second grade if she didn't learn to read. Back then, of course, they weren't diagnosing
yeah,
dyslexia and all that stuff like they do now. So I had no idea. And then you come along and you're just making straight A's, and your teachers are telling me total opposite of what
yeah.
we were told about her. Like, he's an overachiever. He
needs to not worry about
he
his
needs,
homework.
to quit worrying so much about his schoolwork.
Yeah, I remember being very young and stressing out about things, just like little things about not finishing a question on a homework.
Yeah, like
or
at night, I would hear you cry and in your bed, and I'd go in there, I didn't finish my homework, or I didn't, and I would be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You should have.
No, I was just gonna say that I just don't think, I mean, there's obvious times when you're gonna switch. I mean, because you weren't the same, but as far as, our value system or anything like that, I don't think it changed that much from one to the next.
I think we've always
sometimes it may be a little stronger,
yes,
than maybe it was early years. But even as parents, if you're telling me you're not growing, I feel bad for you, because you should be growing as a parent as much as your children are growing. So I think that makes a big difference, So I don't think things were different. I just think things got stronger along the way about how we felt about things and how we dealt with things, that kind of thing.
And
So.
just, you were more outgoing
Oh,
socially than your sister, so
had to get used to a lot of different
had
things.
to get used to that, because she was happy to just be home with us and play with us, or whatever. I mean, she had her friends that she wanted to have over, and she would do that, and they'd leave and she'd be fine, but your friends would leave and you were ready for the next one to come over, or ready to
or play a game,
or and so sometimes I would just be like, enough. Time to wind down.
yeah, for sure. So a little bit of a shift, but I'm wondering if either of you guys experienced any kind of midlife crisis. So I guess my teenage years, you guys are around there. So what would you say, did you, I mean, if you didn't, that's.
I feel like I'm in a weird place right now, because I look at my life right now and I'm like, what have I done? What is going to be my thing? What's my thing? I don't know if I know what my thing is, what, I don't know if I ever found, other than my family, and that's always been like the most important thing to me. I always put my family first.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even doing things with friends, if I felt like a lot of times I just didn't want to be away from my family, so sometimes I think maybe I went not overboard there, but I think maybe I didn't help myself out a lot by not going and doing more things. And
but I mean, you did also, I feel like you did break a cycle, like a familial cycle that,
yes,
and that's a big deal, to be the one to be like, I changed that.
That's
that's
true. That is a big deal. Right?
So I mean, like, I'm really very grateful for that you wanted to do something different than your parents did, and have a different influence on your kids than they did, right?
Yes.
And so I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So
I mean, because of her situation, we've always been very careful about alcohol in the house, drinking, because I think, and that's what I think
well, I remember telling you at one point, it's either, before we got married, I'm like, it's either that or me, because if I have children, they're not going to be in the same household I was in growing up. I'm not going to do that to my children.
And not that I was doing a lot, I was just doing other things other than alcohol.
That's what I told him.
And so that's what she told me.
I mean, you were in your 20s in the 70s, so that makes sense.
I mean,
so she just looked right at me and told me, she said, it's either going to be that or me. And that was honestly, that was the last time I smoked. I'll just put it out there. And obviously I'm not talking about cigarettes. So that's what she told me. She just looked right at me, and that's what it was. And and we've already said that, from early on, we just knew we were meant to be together. So there was no, there was no party that we were going to be together or anything. We just knew it.
Well, I feel like I never really had to be told very much, like, don't do this, because I feel like I learned a lot from the example that you guys gave me of that, and like, because I don't remember you guys drinking when I was growing up, or maybe I remember gatherings in the driveway with the neighborhood where, you guys, like, you might have a beer or something. But, I don't ever remember any of that. I don't remember anything that I was like, like, I had friends who had parents who smoked regularly, and they also smoke regularly, and things like that. And I didn't experience any of that, and so I never really cared that much about a lot of that stuff. And so anyway, I feel like you guys really provided a great example, more than anything than having to like feel like you need to instill your values in me by like telling me all the time, right? Because you guys just lived it. So
Well,
Yeah,
thanks.
and that's,
Yeah.
thanks, yeah, and that's why I've always, you know, the lead by example thing, and I know it's cliche, but that's, to me, that's what it is. I mean, you just live life the way you know you're supposed to,
mhm.
and hopefully
Your children will
teaching,
see that, or
yeah, people will
somebody
see that.
else might see that,
Mhm.
or
Yeah. So is that to say that neither of you really feel like you had a midlife crisis, like midlife crisis, but more like, because I mean, you both went to school a little bit later to, or to
Mhm.
college a little bit later. Do you feel like that was maybe a moment where you were like, I want to shift in my life? Maybe that was some form of midlife crisis for you to go back to school, or is there maybe something else
well,
that?
maybe it was for me. It was like I went to school, I got my degree in teaching, but I could never get a job in teaching for whatever reason. I don't know, but I don't know if it was the timing when I went. I didn't specialize in anything. I don't know, but that was kind of a big blow, like
Yeah.
maybe to my ego, maybe
Yeah.
to my,
Mm.
well, nobody wants me, nobody,
Oh yeah.
I'm not good enough, I'm not, you know,
Mhm. Kind of
yeah, kind
brought back
of,
some of those old worries from when you were a
yeah,
kid.
like,
Like, yeah.
yeah, because definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and for me, I mean, I always feel like, and still to this day I do, there's just a point where a door will open and you decide to walk through it or not. And so many of those things, joining the military, staying in the military, I got my airframe and power plant license certificate, as they call it, in the military. I got out. That's when I started going to school, because that's when the job I was in kind of suggested that you'd be better off if you kind of went to school and, did those things. And I've said it from the beginning and all that kind of stuff. But when I did my bachelor's degree, that was for a reason. When I got my master's degree, that master's degree was for me.
Yeah.
I didn't do it for any, it helped in the future, not realizing it, like a lot of other things that I've been able to do, but I've not, it wasn't meant for any one specific reason. It was to, um, for me,
Yeah.
it was because that teacher still rang clear in the back of my head. So, when you graduate, like,
And you have
so I
a
got my
master's degree, it makes you feel a little
Yeah,
Yeah.
even at the gate.
So that kind of came full circle for you.
Yeah, because those
Yeah.
things still, I mean, it's amazing how much of that stuff lingers.
Mm-hmm.
in the
It's
back of your
still,
mind
yeah, it's still
constantly.
Yeah.
all the way through there. So, and I ended up with a master's degree with a double specialization. I graduated all at the same time, and that all those kudos and all those things came up at the same time. Graduated with a 3.93, only getting one B through the entire master's program, and it just made me feel good. There's no,
Yeah.
It should have.
there's
That's
there's no other way to say that.
yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean that could definitely be considered a form of midlife crisis, but maybe not a crisis, but more
Yeah.
of a like
Yeah.
ready to step up, like
Yeah.
and do something for yourself,
Yep.
I mean, I feel like you do have that new Camaro out in the garage now that if that's a midlife crisis, that'd be great because
I would
have
have
you
to,
around for
I would have to call it that, because I struggled for a long time as to whether I should buy that car. So
Too long.
So my mom finally convinced him to get his kind of dream car in 2023 Camaro sitting out in the garage now. So that's it's pretty cool culmination of all of the work and everything that you've done over the years.
And one of the reasons
pretty
that
cool.
was important to me is because he always put his family first, everything, over everything. you know, and I know all the years we've been married, he wanted a sports car, but he
Yeah.
always got a family car because he had a family, you know, so
Yeah.
it just felt like it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for him to do something for himself, not
Yeah.
just us all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And I have to admit, when I open the door, my butt drops so low to the seat that I have to worry about whether it's still there, whether the seat is there. It does feel good. So
Yeah, that's funny. Well, it's actually perfect transition to talking about retirement. You know, Tish and I are older and have, you know, she's got her own kids, and you know, I'm starting businesses and doing all these things as well, and kind of my own version of adulthood. And
Yep.
like
but
they
yeah,
said, they're different.
yeah. So yeah, but you guys are both now retired and kind of have time to do your thing and go where you want and buy new cars. And so how was that transition to being empty nesters for you guys? What was that experience like, especially, you know, having such strong focus on family and that sort of thing? What was it like making that transition?
Again, it was great.
Okay, then.
There's been some hiccups in the road with cancer. Richard is going through some issues with cancer right now, so that kind of put a bump in the road with our retirement. It kind of gives you a whole new perspective on life, you know, and maybe changed the way we wanted to do things or some of the things we wanted to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
But but overall, even dealing with that, it's been very nice because we can focus on each other, we can focus on our kids, our grandkids, and
Yeah.
not have to feel stressed out about, oh, I got work, I've got to, you know, I can't spend as much time
Yeah.
with you because
You don't have as many have tos anymore.
right, right.
A lot more want tos.
Well, a lot more. A lot more.
So, well, I've even noticed like a really just like a new level of closeness between you guys over the last couple of years that has been really inspiring to me. Just going through that more difficult time, you know, and going through something a little bit more trying than maybe you had experienced in the past together, you know. And so yeah, just seeing the way you guys have grown through that has been really cool. So yeah.
Not easy, but
Yeah.
I think we just have to keep our eyes on the big picture and know that this is just a day by day kind of thing, and still do the things we enjoy doing and that we can still do or whatever. And we're like best friends.
So it makes it easy to hang out
makes it,
together.
Yeah, it does. It makes it a lot easier. And you know, and I think coming from my background, having, you know, my mother always having health issues, as much as I hated it, sometimes it was very difficult because
Yeah.
you know, I ended up doing a lot of stuff or missing out on things or whatever that but I think that helped me maybe to understand more, maybe
Oh yeah, a little bit more
a
empathy
little more
for the whole process.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm just more in tune, I think, to
yeah, she's been a great support. So it's because I don't at this point, I don't want to sugarcoat it because I don't try to. But having the type of cancer that I have and so on has just, it's just turned our world 180 degrees. And having that world turned 180 degrees, it is still easy to deal with most times because we are so close.
Yeah,
And we can
that strong
talk
support
about
We can
system.
talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I've kept her up more nights than I care to talk about. So,
Yeah.
and people wonder why I'm so tired. I'm just teasing.
Well, one thing I've always really liked is that you guys just take things one day at a time. You know, like you're not focused on the past or trying too hard to like focus on the future and like, stressing about either, but it's just like what's happening right now.
Yes.
And like then nothing else really matters that much, like you can prepare financially, you can, all of these things, whatever, but like to be able to focus on this moment, within a couple of days or whatever is just such a valuable tool to have, and something that I think I've learned a lot from too.
I think you have to do it that way, because if I think of what the ultimate outcome could be, I'm just going to be depressed all the time. But if I take each day and we spend some time together, or we talk, or we just do things that maybe he does something he enjoys, or I do something I enjoy, I think it's like normal. I think I want things to be as normal as possible on top of not being as normal as possible. But I don't want to focus on the bad.
Yeah.
I want to see,
makes sense.
like, we've got a lot of good stuff going on here. We want to.
And you guys have done
keep it
some traveling together since retirement, and road trips and all kinds of stuff.
Even since, illness, and that I think that's been good for us, because we're like in the car together for 8 hours a day or whatever. So that it's just a good time to bond over things, talk about things.
Just music, books.
Hold hands
chat
while you're driving.
So
find fun places to stop and eat and do other things.
Just try to enjoy it.
Day at a time.
So what do you guys want your future to look like then? Like, you have this, kind of new perspective and new experiences. What do you guys kind of have planned for the next several years?
Good health would be great. Which is kind of what I'm trying to focus on right now. Is I want to make myself strong, and I want to make myself healthy. Where like, if I do think of the future, don't think I don't, but so if we get to a point where I need to do more for him, I'm able to. I don't want to not be able to do that. So I remember thinking before my mom passed away, and she was getting so bad, her health, and I just kept thinking, I need to start making myself strong so I can do what I need to do, and then he got sick. I think, there's some depression that went on with both of us.
To be expected.
Right. So we found ourselves just sitting around, just stuffing our faces and watching TV and
eating comfort foods
for a couple of years, I think. And then one day I thought, I need to be more careful, and I need to start working out and get strong enough to do what I need to do. And
well, especially and I'll just tell it like it is. I mean, when I was diagnosed, within 2 months, I went from being diagnosed with stage 2 to stage 4. And, so that's a struggle. And so in my situation, it can't be cured, but it can be managed. And that's what we're in the stage of doing, is managing the disease, and it's going really well. But it's still, there's still things we want to hang out together, and
we got 28 more years to go.
Well,
hopefully go to Scotland with me next year for my 40th birthday.
That would be awesome. That would be
awesome. So just kind of to start wrapping things up, I was curious, what are some of the most I have it written down here. I should just read it because it'll be easier.
Easier.
What are the most important lessons you've learned that you would go back in time and share with your 10-year-old self if you could?
My 10-year-old self.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned that there are good men in the world. They're not all bad. And I think I've learned that focusing on your family, what you have is what you need to focus on, not what everybody else has and what,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah, there's a really common Buddhist philosophy of standing on your side of the river and looking across to the other side of the river and dreaming of what it's like, and then going to the other side of the river and realizing that it's the same or worse.
Right.
I
I think over the years, like, so we've never been wealthy and we've never, but I always tell him, we've got what we need, or like, we'll think we want something, or look at these people, they have all this money, why do they have why are they getting this and all this, and then I think, we have what we need, and we have more than we need, and why am I looking at these people who that is how they define themselves, is by the stuff they have, not the relationships they have, and not the because so many times people tell me that you and your husband are so in love, and I'm like,
yeah, I liked it. But yeah, and it's hard to hear people say things like that, because it's just like, you don't experience this too, like,
and you think how sad that they don't experience that, and it's not that we walk around going, it's just they see it.
You live it.
We live it.
Like,
I guess. I never really thought about it, but we just, apparently people see something, because I've heard that so
many times.
Many times,
So there are good men in the world, and focus on what you have, and developing your relationships over getting things.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. What about you?
Which, let me say real quick, things could be so important to me, because growing up I didn't have anything, and I couldn't really ask for things, because my dad being an alcoholic, that was his focus, was his alcohol. So we couldn't get a lot of things we needed. So I think I went without a lot of things growing up, so
kind of put you in a scarcity mindset almost.
And so I could have been, that could have turned bad on me, where I would think, oh, I gotta have all the brand names, I gotta have all the best cars, I gotta have but I don't think that way. I think it makes me so grateful for what I do have.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
So I'm gonna say this, I can't tell you how many times I've had to say, because she leans over and goes, you mind if I get the shrimp for dinner?
Get the shrimp.
Get the shrimp.
just shut up and get the shrimp, don't embarrass me. I remember in the grocery store one time, we were young, and I wanted a magazine, and I picked it up, and I'm like, is it okay if I get this magazine? And he was like, oh my gosh, he was so embarrassed, because he felt like me asking him for a magazine made him look bad. Which is not even allowed to get a magazine. And I still do it to this day, because
on a $3 magazine.
And I'm like, can I get this?
It's funny. I don't know.
I think you should have told your 10-year-old self that you're a very smart person,
Yeah.
and that you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
lot of intuity, and that's important.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because I feel like our example, sometimes good or bad, but came from my parents. They had some really rough times,
But they were together.
But they were together.
Yes. And that was one thing, when we first got married, I was just kind of enamored by your parents, because I really had not experienced that kind of thing. And I just I adored your mom, and I wanted to learn so much from her because, she kept the house clean. She did all this. She cooked dinner on time. And I mean, I started cooking when I was 6 or 7, so I just thought it was so cool, to have what's it like to have that kind of a household,
Yeah, just put together.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So this is what I would tell my 10-year-old self. And since Anna brought up what she did, the one story that I'll probably end with, so to speak, is when I was getting ready to go to the Air Force. My dad took me to Warren, Ohio, down to the recruiter station to get on the bus to go to Cleveland to be sworn in and all that stuff. And I don't remember this well. Again, people laugh at me because there's a lot of things I guess I just don't remember. But my dad told the story many, many times. He said I put one foot on the step of the bus and turned around. I turned around and I said, I'm not coming back to nobody.
And you are a big somebody.
Yep. That's a pretty good memory to have, and just that kind of mindset, going out in the world with that mindset for whatever reason, it was, because I've been to your hometown, I've been there, and it's very, very small, even still.
Yeah.
And so, and your brother and sister are still there to this day, and so like visiting there makes me extremely grateful for the fact that you had that mindset, and that you took that through your life, and and showed that too, that your hard work, both of you, like just really hard work to create a positive life for me and Letitia. And that shows, like, even now, that was your kind of like a big value for you, was like growth and improvement. And so
and I don't want to
hold on just a second, just let her get past her little moment,
whatever it is.
because I can edit that out.
And I don't want to. I mean, my brother and sister both have done well, for staying in that little town, and for what things are available to you and all that kind of stuff. It's just evidently back. I don't know why. I don't even know if this is the case, but evidently back then, when I put my foot on that bus step, I just had a different mindset. I just had a mindset that I just wanted to do something different.
You were stepping into the future.
Yeah,
it's going to be
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
a great way to put it.
That bus was a time machine for you.
Yeah.
Yes, it
was. But yeah, I mean, yeah, and they do great, and all of that, and I have a lot of fun when I go visit there.
Yes.
But I also know that, like, I love my perspective on the world, on life, like, and a lot of that is largely in part because you guys were brave enough essentially to go out and do something different. And so now I love traveling, I love experiencing other cultures and all of these things, and I think a big part of that is because you guys have made so many large steps throughout your life to get here, you know, and I've been able to see that example. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
pretty cool stuff.
That's cool.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up and gets us where we're at right now, right?
I hope so.
Life is happening,
You
and
got what you needed.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think so. We'll see when the grades come back and
Right.
but anyway, thank you guys for doing this with me. I've actually been really wanting to sit down and do this anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
glad we had a good reason and a good
Me
opportunity
too.
to do
Me
it.
too.
So yeah, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you
you.
guys.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Appreciate
Cheers.
you and all that you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's
Yeah.
great.
I think it's awesome, all the stuff you're doing, and what a kind person you are.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, and that's all part of it, right? Like, I love like looking back and being able to see the things, like the experiences you guys had growing up led to how you became parents, you know, and like that transfers over to me and Letitia and how we live our lives. And so, you know, seeing that, just the examples that we got as far as family values and work and all this, like work ethic and things like that, and just wanting to do good things in the world, you know, that's a big driver for what's put me where I am and wanting to do the things that I'm doing. So yeah. So anyway, I love you guys.
Love you too.
Cheers.
Cheers.